Hello again and welcome back. If you're new around here, then hello, nice to meet you. And if you're returning, thank you very fucking much for coming back. My name is Alana and I'm a 30-something lady from Scotland. Now, if you haven't been here before, I do like to swear. I don't know if there's a lot of it in this video. I want to say there probably is. And if you're not into that, it's alright, you can skedaddle. There's a little button down here if you wish to subscribe. If you do not wish to subscribe, that is okay, each to their own. We don't have to get on with everybody. You don't have to like everybody, that's alright. But what I am going to say is, if you're looking at me thinking, she looks a little frazzled. I don't look frazzled, I'm alright. But, so I have been out and out for a walk with Rosie. I've had a hat on the whole time, so that's why my hair's like, just this ball of stuff on my head, and my makeup is like hours and hours old now. But I completely forgot to film an introduction for this video, and I thought, oh shit, I better actually jump on. I started editing and I was like, oh wait a minute, I don't have an intro. And if you don't believe me, that is this morning's breakfast, honey. It is now 4 o'clock in the afternoon and it's still sitting there, and I've not got a candle. Usually I have a candle on and make me look really nice. No, it's just a disarray at the moment. It's not even that bad, but it's just a disarray at the moment. So this is the intro for your 3 Valentine's looks. And if you're looking for 3 either bougie, bold or budget looks, because that's what I went with, then just keep on watching. Oh, also get a cup of tea. I've no doubt it's going to be lengthy. It's always lengthy, what can I say. I will also put below when each one starts, when the bougie one starts, when the bold one starts, and when the budget one starts, because you might only want to see either one. That'll be down in the description box, okay? Alright, so we're gonna start with the bougie bitch. And I think I've got just about enough to do a full face. The only thing I don't think I have is anything for my brows, so I'll just skip over that. And we know how I feel about my brows anyway. They just get brushed through sometimes and that's it. And I don't do anything in particular to my brows. So we're gonna start off with some primer. I'm gonna use the Laura Mercier Radiance Primer. The reason I'm using this instead of good old Charlotte Tilbury today is because I have used that a few times in videos already and you have seen me use it recently. Sometimes I forget how lovely this primer is. Do you know that? Like, it's really quite nice. I've squeezed out far too much on my hand there. I put on some jewelry. Sometimes I just like putting jewelry on to come on and film something, and you know that way. See, because I'm using my hand, it's fucking annoying the shit out of me that those bracelets being on my wrist. Alright, so we're going in with Laura Mercier Flawless Lumiere Radiance Perfecting Foundation, and I have 1 in 2 Vanille. So I'm still a little unsure of the colour on this, and I am using my hands to put it on at the moment because I do feel that I still need to work out the texture of it. I still need to work out what it's doing. I think it makes me look a little paler than I probably naturally am, but I'm going to put some bronzer contoury stuff on, so it shouldn't be so bad. But the actual finish of the foundation itself is nice. It's quite radiant and it gives a nice glow, but it does make me look a little ghostly, and for me that's quite tough. Now you can see that I have put on my face, like it's really quite pale on me, even in real life. Like, I know obviously I need to have the light on and stuff, but even in real life it does look quite pale on me. You can actually see how pale it is on my lips, and this is the one it colour matched me for, but I'm not sure, like, it's not pale considering like the actual colour of me, I suppose. But it just feels a little odd. Maybe it's just because I'm used to wearing a kind of slightly more making me look a little tanned foundation. I don't know. Alright, next up I'm going to go in with the Shiseido Synchro Skin Concealer. But I'm just going to go very softly in there and very softly in there. Figured I would zoom you in as well so you can actually see what's going on under my eyes. So I'm just going to use a brush today and kind of lightly dust it in this area. I actually find this to be a little drier than Glossier Stretch. It still looks okay. It still looks like relatively, you can see kind of a little bit of emollient like sheen off it, but it's definitely not as emollient as Glossier Stretch. So if you thought Glossier Stretch was just a little bit too kind of greasy, it's just not quite right for you, then it might be worth giving this one a go. Alright, let's move on to eyes. I'm going to use my Eyes to Mesmerise pot again. This one is in Sunset Rose because we're keeping it back in pinky. Because, you know, Valentine shit. Going in with a little stiff Real Techniques brush, but I will be going in with a, what do you call it? a palette as well, so hold on for that. But I'm just going to use this as a bit of a base. I've just wiped off all the excess on my hand there because I had far too much on the brush. A little of this goes a long way. This is easy, this is really nice, this stuff for that one and done look. Not as super duper sheeny as I thought they would be. I thought the Eyes to Mesmerise pots would be like really ooh, super duper glistening, but they're not. But they're still very nice for like a one and done type of look. I think if you're someone who really cannot be bothered with shadows and you can't be arsed fanning about with like loads and loads of colours on your eyes and all that, and you just need something to look a little like, you know, a little bit more done up and one step go, these are perfect. Alright, so for today I'm going to go in with this. This is the Rose Decadence palette. I think it's from the Divine Rose collection, but it's the little 6-pan palette. You can see it's got really nice colours in it there. I have used this before. I really quite enjoyed it actually when I've used it, so this isn't a first impressions, but I've not used it loads, so I'm going to use this today and see how we get on. Alright, so I'm going to start off with Peach Dusk. I'm going to take it in on a relatively large kind of fluffy brush, but I'm just going to build out the corners on it here with this matte shadow. Now, as I say, this is not my first time using these, and I really do love the quality of these shadows. They're very good, but I think the 6 pans are well worth the money. Like, I don't know what it is, I just think the colour story's a little nicer, like it goes together. Alright, so I'm going to go in with Hedonistic Mauve now, which I would say is much more of a plum than a mauve tone, but I'm just going to go in on a really small brush and just really deepen out the outer corner here, and I want to do it on a really small brush because I don't want it to end up too blown out. I still want this to be kind of soft, even though we're doing pat, and even though it's going to be, I suppose, quite striking, but I don't want it to be too dark. I suppose that's what I'm trying to say. There we are, just kind of deepened that up there. Now I could go in with Fuchsia Flame, which is kind of like a duochrome. Can you see that there? It's like pink, purpley, and it's got hints of kind of red in it too, just across the lid. But I might cheat slightly and use my other Parrot palette. Should I do that? Are you going to be pissed off if I do that? Probably not. What I'm going to do before I go and get the kind of duochrome look ones is use this one. It's just Pink Champagne. That's the lightest one in the palette, and I'm just going to really highlight all this area here. Now, it's not super duper like highlighty crazy, but as I say, I just want a kind of soft look. I'm not going to be one of these bitches that's like, it's Valentine's Day, look pretty, don't look sexy or whatever. It's up to you, you do what the fuck you like. Do you know something? Like, I could be sitting in my fucking pyjamas with my hair that's not been washed for 3 days, and I think if I said to Alan, yo, you want to rumble? Like, he'd probably say yes regardless. So please don't fucking buy into that bullshit that you have to look a certain way. But then sometimes I would meet people on nights out and I would be really done up, and people would still be like, yo, do you want to go on a date sometime? Like, that didn't happen very often. But, you know, these things still happen. So, you know, any way you look, people have to take you for all the ways you look, don't they? So don't feel like you have to do any one thing. Actually, to be fair, on my first date situations, I probably wouldn't have went as dark as this. I probably would have been a little bit lighter handed with that. This would have been a much more kind of evening out, night out look that I probably would have done, but it's Pat, baby. You can't really do it by halves. Okay, so as I said, I'm going in now with the Celestial Divinity palette, and I have to say it's one of my favourites, but I'm going to go in with the colour Cosmic, because Cosmic, that's it there, sorry, don't know what that is. It's like pinky, purpley and duochromy, but it's not, it's buildable. Like, it's not going to look really stark on the lid like a colour. It's a bit more of a topper, that's what, I was trying to say. So I'm just going to pat that just across the lid. It gives that glossy effect to the lids almost. But I'm going back into the Rose palette now just to do underneath. And as you know, I'll probably just do a bit of a mirror image situation underneath. I could go in with the more like plummy one under here, but I think I'm going to leave it. I think that's enough. As I said, I don't want things to be getting too deep. It's quite bright and I don't want it to get too dark. What I am going to do though is pull one of Linda Hallberg's flash crayons, and this one is in Whipple. It's kind of a coppery colour because again, eyeliners are not things I've got a lot of high-end stuff in, but I'm just going to run that right along the water line, like the tight line, sorry, and hopefully that'll build a little intensity to my lashes because I didn't want to go stark with black. And if you wanted, you could add a little bit of just a corner situation here just to frame your eyelashes if you wanted. And again, I'm just gonna push that into my lash line because I think that'll work nicely just to build them up ever so slightly. Alright, so I've zoomed you out a little bit now. I still feel like I look as white as a ghost. Now, in the camera it is going to look a little bit worse. It's not quite as stark as this in real life, but it is still pretty pale. So I'm going to put on some sculpting stuff on my face to try and see if I can get some shape back to my face and some bronzing. What I am going to go in with is an old one from Kevin Aucoin. It is his sculpting powder in light. Now I've had this for quite some time. And I bought it on the back of like so many YouTubers years ago saying it was brilliant, like you needed to use it, how could you not have it? And I bought it and then was just a bit like underwhelmed by it. So I'm going to use that today instead of the Charlotte Tilbury, but I might use Charlotte for the highlighter. So it's definitely much more cool toned than a lot of the other kind of sculpting stuff that I've got, but given the shape of my face today and the shade that it's got me in, this might work a little better. There we go. So I've kind of just popped it round about the temples in these areas here. I think I still look hell of a ghostly. I need to put on some sort of cheek product. Hold on. So I'm going to go in with Pillow Talk with a really big fluffy brush and just swirl today. I feel a little bit like, see if you're really pale, or like today it's went really pale and I didn't really want it to. Sometimes using something like a bronzer in the same areas as a, not a bronzer, sorry, a blush in the same areas as your bronzer sometimes works. I would generally put bronzer like right over here. It actually can make you look a little bit more healthy and alive than wearing the bronzer, because sometimes wearing the bronzer is going to look way too like orangey on your face, whereas if you are pale and maybe a little bit pink undertoned, wearing your blusher kind of all over the cheeks and just a light sweep across the nose will actually pull your face together and make it look a little bit more healthy. If I want to tie my face together, that's generally what I try and do, and it just, this blusher is beautiful. It gives you beautiful sheen. I really have been enjoying this blusher there, and I actually think that has made me look 10 times more fucking healthier than any of the sculpting did. So I'm gonna leave that, and I'm gonna go in with, I'm gonna curl my lashes, but I'm gonna go in with NARS Climax. Okay, so I'm just gonna zoom in so you can see my lashes to see, I actually did put bottom lashes on as well. Sometimes that is something that I don't bother with because I don't want them to look too spidery, but I feel like with this look, I wanted them to look a little doll-like and like really open. So that's why I've put bottom kind of lashes on too, but that's there. You can see the glow off of that blush. It's beautiful. I might put on Charlotte's highlighter as well though, like why not? Who fucking cares? It's not like I'm going anywhere today. So this is just the other side of the Sculpt and Highlight duo. I might just stick that on top of the cheekbones there too. Definitely much more of a golden tone, but oh, yeah, let's go for it. Now as for lips, I do have Lancome, and it's one of their matte shakers in Beige Vintage, but it is a really nice kind of matte pink mauve, dusky rose, that's what I'm going for. I do have kind of more bougie lip liners, but I'm going to be honest with you, they're all in like reds and stuff like that, so I didn't want to use one of them, so just go in with any lip liner you want. Alright, so these are brilliant. I've had this for ages and I think they're lovely. And as you'll see, it's like a really nice, deep, kind of dusky pink colour. There we go. So it is a little fiddly for application, but once it's on, these are so comfortable. So comfortable. See, I've just put that on and I've not worn it for ages. I'm like, oh my god, these are so good. I'm so glad I've done a little like shop mustache stuff. So these are so comfortable, and these are not ones that I ever found when they were matte became really like cat butthole at all, like too much crinkling going on. I do have creasing on my lips, I mean it's just natural, but I didn't feel like my lips felt like they were raisin dry, put it that way. It was just nice, and I really like the effect it gives. It's almost got a little bit of a sheen to it as well, and they're just really, really comfortable. You can put a gloss over the top, obviously, but I think I'm gonna leave it at that. So this is my Boujee, using all the most expensive makeup that I probably have at the moment, but kind of soft, glam, a little bit pretty, simple as well. It's not particularly a difficult look to achieve. There's no precision in it at all. It's just kind of smooshing stuff on your eyes and being on your way. But just really pretty, nice, subtle, pink, soft look. Alright, hello. This look is going to be the bold Valentine's look. I know, look, put a pink jumper on, season of love and all that kind of stuff. So this one is going to be more bright, a little bit more out there, a little bit more editorial, if you want to call it that. I wouldn't call it that. I don't think I'm that good at my makeup. But Katie Jane Hughes is a massive influence. I think she is a wonderful, wonderful makeup artist. And she done this pastel look. I'm just going to slot in here. She does Katie Jane Hughes Academy every single week. I done it this week when she done the pastel look. She was basically saying, I'm going to do this pastel look. Please try and replicate it as best you can, but use whichever colour pastel look you like. So I didn't want to do the exact same thing, and hers was very similar to a lemon yellow or a lime green. So I thought I'll do pink. So I have already kind of practiced this look, but the way it came out, I was actually pretty pleased with it. So we're going to do that in a kind of more bold Valentine's look today. So if that seems like your kind of thing, then you might like this instead of doing, you know, just smoochy smoochy cute natural makeup. I've just brushed my teeth and then I drank my coffee there. That was rotten. Now I'm a wee bit further away. I'm going to come in close, don't you worry. But I'm going to start off with some Glossier Future Dew, just one pump, for the simple reason I just think it helps the rest of the look come together towards the end. First of all, I got a white base eyeshadow. White base eyeshadow. You can use any kind of white base you want. I mean, back in the day, NYX Milk Makeup, the crayon, everybody would have used that, I imagine. You could use one of the Danessa Myricks Colour Fix, is that what they're called? Like little tubes of paint, almost. I'm going to use this. It's an older NYX one. You use whatever one you want, basically. And it doesn't matter. I wasn't like careful about the placement of this. It doesn't really matter at this stage. I just plopped it all over my eyelids. And I'm just going in with this little brush here. It is relatively stiff. It's not like a really big fluffy buffing brush, but just to get that colour evened out on the lids. And again, I'm doing a bit of a stamping rather than a wiping motion. I'm doing wiping around the sides because I don't want it to be stark, like white against my skin, but stamping on the actual main part of the lid. I then went on with this eyeliner, and don't worry, I know it's going to look terrifying, but I just kind of put it on the main part of my lid and then started smooshing that out a little bit. And it definitely is a neon orange colour. It isn't pink, so I don't know why when it was mixed with the white it's went this beautiful pastel pink colour. And if you think it's too orange, or you think, oh, it's not really, you know, it wasn't the colour that I mixed it on the back of my hand, then go into your white and then mix the two together. It's just a bit of going back and forward at this stage. Again, I do think you should use a kind of stiff brush for this, because if you use something too wishy-washy, it won't do the job. It needs to be something that's got a bit of give to it, but not as soft as like a blending out here brush. Alright, so I think I'm quite happy with that there just now. I think I've took this side a little higher than the other side, but it's alright, we'll get there. And then, funnily enough, what I went in with was almost like a kind of orangey tone, or a coral tone, that's what I should say. I just went really lightly with it, so even maybe like dust some off on your hand before I started placing it down. And this was basically to set it, because I've used essentially what is two cream products to get this look, and I didn't want it to crease. So I'm just gonna use that orange again, and I'm gonna kind of carve out a bit more of a shadow effect on this side. Still the same colour, I'm not using different deeper colours to make anything have shadow, but if you use one colour but are light with it in some areas and dark with it in others, you will build up shadow anyway. And you know what as well, see, because it doesn't have to be perfection, like it's just a kind of gradient wash of colour across the lids, it doesn't have to be perfect, don't worry about it. And I'm just going to show you, that is definitely like an orange colour, it's not a pink, that's pink next to it, that one is definitely much more of a coral orange, but it's amazing how it looks kind of pink on my eyelids. Now for underneath here, I didn't want to go too boom pink on the bottom as well, so I'm just going to really softly run a slightly lighter pink. This is a blush tone, as you can see there, it is a much lighter pink, and I'm just going to run that under here. And then I'm going to take MAC's Opal, which is a really old one, and it's like a pink duochrome, and I'm just going to pop that in the inner corners because I think a wee bit of highlight in there will look really pretty. I think it'll look really nice. Okay, and that is eyes pretty much done. You could put on like individual false lashes if you wanted with this look. When I done it for the KGH Academy, I did put on individual falsies throughout my lashes just to make them a little bit more impact. But to be honest with you, I'm going to put the mascara on, then I'm going to see how I feel, and if I want to put them on, I will do. And I've just zoomed you out so we can get on with the rest of the face. So what I'm going to do is, we're not going in full shebang with foundation today. I'm going to take the Lumen Invisible Illumination, it's like Instant Glow Fresh Skin Tint or something. I spoke about this ages ago, ages ago. It is quite pricey, I feel, for what it is. Essentially it's a tinted moisturiser. It doesn't have any SPF in it or anything like that either, and I always think that's an important thing to take into consideration when it's a tinted moisturiser. But I've just put a little drop on the back of my hand there, and it is a little bit deeper and darker than my skin. I've got pink undertones, this is definitely much more of a yellow undertone, but I'm really working it into the brush, and I'm just going to take it in the areas that I want it. And I think sometimes when you've got a really big eye like this on, I want my skin to look more skin-like. Does that make sense? Because if I made it look like a full beat, then my fear is then I look a little too overdone. So I like my skin to just look nice and dewy and soft. I'm going to go in with some MAC Prep and Prime, something that I've pulled out because I've not used it in so long, and I'm just going to pop that under here, just in this area here. You don't need to take your concealer all the way out here, don't worry. Sometimes I do, I'm not saying you're knocking it, but it's more of a brightening product, this, than it is a concealing product. It's not got loads of coverage to it. I believe that they sell it as a highlighting product rather than a actual concealer, but it works for me, and it is light enough that I don't feel it gets creepy or anything like that under my eyes. Okay, so next up I'm going to go in with blush. Reason being, I'm going to use the Danessa Myricks Vision Flush, and this is in Ballet Slippers, which is kind of that brown, mid-tone brown. I'm just going to take this one, it's like a liquid lip from NYX. I think it's in Ibiza, is it? Yeah, Ibiza. And it is a really like pink, neon pink. And I'm just going to mix those two together. And I'm just going to put that there, and I'll buff that in with my brush. I want it to look that almost cutesy way, like I've just got a little rosy cheek, but I've maybe just flushed, like I'm embarrassed. That sounds mental, but that's kind of how I want it to look. Very much here. I want this colour here. I don't want it like up round about here. Now I am going to do a tiny bit of sculpting as well, because when you've got a big pie face like mine, sometimes it requires it. And I'm going to go in with the Charlotte Tilbury Sculpt Side from the Hollywood Bronze and Glow. I'm just going to do that, and I'm going to kind of put it around here as well. You don't need to do this obviously. If you've got really beautiful skin that's like porcelain and with a nice pink cheek, you look like a doll, rather than like you've just done a workout that it's too hard for you and you think, oh god, I look like a piece of pork. So I'm just gonna put a little bit more shape back into my face now. There, I'm happy with that. I look a little bit more snatched. So now I'm going to move on to lips now. So when Katie Jane Hugh's done this, she done a really neutral lip with it, and she done like that overdrawing thing, like so you look like you had really Cupid's bow, like not Cupid's bow, but like a round top lip, like a lot of girls who have fillers would have, instead of like a prominent Cupid's bow. I do have a relatively prominent Cupid's bow, but I'm not going to do a neutral lip If at this stage you feel like you need a neutral lip, by all means please do so. But I am going to put on a red lip, and I'm going to do a mixture of a red lip and like this coral pink colour. And I'm going to draw with a really dark liner to pronounce the shape of the lip, because I think with a natural lip you can get away with that overdrawing over the top, but when you're doing something a bit more like impact, it can look a little strange, and it can look a little strange on me. I can't do it, if I'm honest with you. Other people probably could, but for that reason I'm going to do a darker lip liner. Now I'm going to take a small brush just to blend that slightly, because you don't want it to look crazy super duper lime, do you? Now I'm going to take this red. This is one from NARS. I think I used it at Christmas time, and it is a really true red colour, so I'm just going to take that around the about, and then I'm going to take my liquid lip. It's one of their soft matte ones, and this is really pink, but against this red lip it just kind of adds a little bit more blue to it. I think it might look orange on the camera, my apologies. It certainly is more pink in real life, and you can see it gives you that really prominent pout, like ooh. Personally I think pink and red together are beautiful. I really like them. I know it's not going to be for everybody, but for me I fucking love it. And lastly, but certainly not least, I'm going to take the Nabla skin glazing, and this is in Lola, but it's also going to give me that real pinky tone with it. It's not going to just be purely highlight, but it's going to do a little bit of both. And there we go. That is my bold Valentine's look. I love that it's like a really red lip with pink eyes, and I know it's not going to be for everybody, but personally I kind of love this. I don't know why. I loved it when I done it the KGH Academy a couple of weeks ago, even though it was for a completely different situation. As I say, you can absolutely wear a neutral lip with this. You do not need to wear a bright lip with this. You could wear a pink, you could wear just a straight pink as well and do double that. You could, again, as I say, add more false lashes if you want. In the end up I didn't bother, but I kind of love it. Kind of like this look, really like it. I think it's good fun to like play with your makeup as well and make it a little bit different, rather than just looking at a palette and being like, right, I'm just going to take from here, there and everywhere. So I understand completely this one might not be for everybody, but just for a little change up and a little bit more like excitement, I really like this look. I think it's awesome. Alright, so this one is going to be the budget Valentine's look. It's going to be kind of, how do I put this without sounding like an absolute walloper? This is going to be what I would call date night or first date, you know, but this is going to be like that subtle kind of, I want to say pretty pink look that you might want to do the first date and be like, I'm so pretty. Yeah, it makes me sound like an absolute loser, but that's what I'm going to go with, for the simple reason, if I was going on a first date, I kind of do want to have that kind of, I mean, it's been a long time. It's been a fucking long time. But I do want to have that kind of like first date, like I've made an effort but not too much. That's personal to me, and as I've said before, you do you. If you like a full beat face and that's what you would wear on a first date, that's absolutely fine, mate. No bother at all. Right, so let's start off with the eyes. I'm going to be using this palette here, and this is from I Heart Revolution. You know, I've said before, like it's not a brand that I'm really supporting anymore, but I do own some of their products. So I'm going to use this today, and I'm going to use this from Kiko, which is their water, oh god, what are they called, like it's like a water shadow or something like that. And this one I believe is in Pink Flamingo, which is $2.19. Okay, so I'm going to take this little palette and I'm going to start off with this peachy shade. I'm just going to start there and build it up, because I do think I'm going to tie in a little plummy, but on the whole I think I'd rather just keep it kind of neutral on the lid, not building a lot of shadow or dimension. I just want this to be relatively quick and easy look. Okay, so just a little wash of colour in the eyes, nothing too dramatic going on there. I'm then going to go in with a slightly more kind of dense, not quite as fluffy brush, and I'm going to take this colour here, no sorry, that's the peach one. I'm going to go in with a slightly darker one here. I don't think these have names, to be fair, so I'm not going to get into the ins and outs. And I'm just going to kind of slightly add a bit of shadow to the outside, but not too much, because as I say, it doesn't need to be super duper dimension and all this kind of stuff. I just want to frame my eye a little bit. Again, this will depend on your eye shape. If you feel like just putting one colour across the lid is enough, then do that. You don't need to do it the way I do it. I am again going to try and pull the shape out a little bit to give me that more elongated look, because I think sometimes with a really pretty look that can look really nice and alluring. It's just a really flattering eye shape for me, but again, if your eye shape is different, then you know, do what suits you. Alright, so I'm hoping you can see there, it's just like a nice wash of colour on the lids. I'm just going to show you the two shimmers in this palette. That's them there. So that one's definitely like a rose gold, and then the top one is a little bit more silver. So this is the Kiko shade here, and I'm going to just show you what this looks like because it's absolutely stunning. And that there, that's the Kiko shade. You can see just how much more impact that's got than these two, but by all means use one of these if you really want to. By the way, that's just my foundation I've got in the back of my hand there. I just squeezed it out too early. So I'm going to go in with my finger and just run this over the top of the lid, because I think the effect is beautiful and very, very easy to then achieve. So I'm just going to buff this out round about the edges here, and as you can see, actually when I shut my eye, it doesn't look like, you'd look and think, has she got shadow on, hasn't she? Like obviously I've got shadow on, but at certain aspects you're like, yep, you've got eyeshadow on, and then other aspects it's like almost wash away. Does that make sense? What I am going to do is take the rose gold in the palette and just take that in here a little bit, because it isn't quite as impactful as the one that is on the lid, but I feel it will give a nice little kind of highlight in here. I'm now going to go in with one of the darker shades, so like this one here and this one. I'll probably mix the two of these like so, and I'm just going to run that underneath because I don't want it to be too stark a difference, but I do want to just frame my eyes slightly. And along the top I'm going to go in with this liner, which is called Very Pretty Plum. It is from Beauty Pie, which I know isn't available in a drugstore, but I think it's kind of more of a drugstore price, so that's why I'm using this one instead. I didn't have a plum liner that was from a drugstore, so this is the one I'm going with because I wanted to keep it in that colour family. And I'm hoping you can see that by adding that, look at the difference in my lashes between those two eyes. It just looks completely different on this side, so that's the only reason I'm adding that. Okay, so I'm just going to curl my lashes and put some mascara on. I am using the Flower Beauty Warrior Princess mascara. I think this is really nice, and I want really kind of fluttery, pretty doll-like lashes, and I think this does it, so that's what I'm going to go with. I am curling my lashes as well because I always think it really helps. There we are. You can see that that mascara has a really, really good impact, but I do think I'm going to put a couple of little singles on. You could use a really light and fluttery lash, to be fair. These ones from Primark are quite good. They're not too, like, they don't have too much impact. They're quite loose and just pretty, but I think I'm going to do a few individuals instead because I just kind of prefer the look that it gives. And there we go. That's me added maybe 3 onto each eye, and I just think it buffs, like, builds my lashes out a little bit and looks really good. Alright, so we're going to do a little bit of base now, so I've zoomed you out a little bit. We're going to be using the Rimmel Lasting Radiance. This did used to be called the Wake Me Out Foundation back in 2010, back in the day, but they've slightly reformulated it. What I would say is this is a medium coverage, right? If you've been here before, you know I don't like a full coverage foundation. It's not my kind of thing. But even this has got a little bit more coverage and a tiny little bit more mattifying than that of a dewy tinted moisturiser or something like that. I'm not going to go in with a primer. It might be controversial, unpopular opinion, but I'm just going to go in with this foundation kind of all over the place. I don't have a drugstore powder, or I do have one, but I wouldn't have said it was budget. It's Vichy, and Vichy is a little bit expensive. So I'm going to go in with this and probably not bother powdering the more kind of luminous areas so that that shines through underneath, but just put it in the areas I feel I need it again, places where I need a little more coverage, and work my way probably from like inside out. I don't need loads of coverage here, but I might need a little bit more round about the nose, round about the mouth, places like that. But it is a really beautiful kind of glowy foundation. I've used it twice now since I've pulled it out. Twice or three times actually, because I used it went out for my first walk since I'd been not well, and I'd used it when we went out the other day and actually mixed it with Lumen, I want to say, the Lumen tinted moisturiser. I mixed it with that. I was really pleasantly surprised with it. So it is a little bit more coverage than I am used to, but still does a really, really nice job. And I do not have a budget concealer. That's the only thing I don't have. So I'm going to be using this as a bit of a kind of both concealer come foundation. Obviously if you do need a little bit more concealing around about like under your eyes or spots or stuff like that, then feel free to do so. I personally don't feel I need it today. I might need it on other days, but I don't actually have a budget one to hand, so I'm not going to be using it. So I'm going to take this You Do You blush, which is a very kind of sickly sweet pink. That's what I'm trying to say. It's a very beautiful like puff candy kind of pink, but I'm going to mix it with a tiny little bit of the Flower Beauty, what are these called? Blush bombs. And this one is in Berry Bitten, so it's like a really dark kind of berry stain, but I'm just going to mix a tiny blob of that in and mix the two of them together. And I'm going to just take this on a brush as well on the back of my hand so that I've got a little bit more control over the colour on my face. And I'm going to put this right here, like really peachy, not peachy, really pop the pink right on the apple of the cheek. You can smile if you want to find out where your apple is. Mines are huge, so you know, it's not difficult. Now for highlight, again, it was one I probably struggled a little bit from drugstore because I'd done my little declutter, realised I'd probably flung out the only drugstore highlight that I had. But I've got this one here from H&M, which is the highlighter duo stick. I think they still do these. One side is like an opal colour and one side is like opal but super duper like icy and got little bits of glitter in it, to be honest with you. So I'm gonna go with a more opal-y side. I don't know if you can see it in there. Yeah, so this one here is the more opal side and this one here is a little bit more frosty. So I'm gonna go with the more opal side because I really do enjoy that. So I'm just gonna take some of this on my fingers before I place it on my cheek and just kind of dab it right along here. And yeah, you can see I'm now becoming like a big marshmallow basically. Got candy floss because I'm just all pink, but I kind of like that ethereal type of pink look. And I'm gonna run that right on there too because, as you know, I love to do the Cupid's bow. And finally for lips, again I was a bit like, oh, what will I put on for lips? I've got a million kind of pinky, well not a million actually, more red than I do pink. If you've watched my declutter video you'll know that. But I thought, I've not played with these for a while. Now this is a nude lipstick, but on me definitely more pink, so that's why I thought I would go in with this Happy Nude Year from Boujee because it's definitely more of a pink tone on me. And if you are doing any first date stuff, you probably want a liquid lip instead of a gloss, don't you? Because you're gonna be smooching. And that's kind of where I'm going to finish this look. I think it's just nice, a little wash of pink, like you're looking really pink and pretty, but also not looking like, you know, you don't have anything on your face. You clearly have makeup on your face, but it's not overkill. And I hate using that word overkill. Please don't take it as like I'm saying anybody who wears loads of makeup, oh you're doing too much. Not at all. Sometimes I love to have hundreds of makeup on, but that kind of just dewy, looking fresh, looking like pretty but not overdone, I suppose, but you still look like you're done up. I don't know. A lot of people would disagree. They probably think I'm way too overdone for a dusty. I don't really care. What I was going to say as well is, if you're like me and a liquid lip will start to look a little raisiny, then I would top with a lip oil because it's not overly sticky and it's not like if you're going to smooch, it's going to be there forever. It's kind of just enough to keep you hydrated, or a balm even. You could use a lip balm. But the colour's going to stay, it's like a nice sheen without being super duper glossy, and I really like that effect as well. But that's the kind of pretty but budget drugstore kind of Valentine's look, so hope you've enjoyed this one. Alright, so I actually used the bold look to say my kind of finale goodbye, because it is only going to be 3 looks this video, so I thought, well, I've still got my face on, I may as well use this. So I really hope you enjoyed these 3 Valentine's looks. I still think this one might be my favourite. I don't know, we'll see. But I just really enjoy this one. It just cheers me up when I look at it. I think it's great fun. But I really hope you enjoyed the 3 looks. I just want to show you that, first of all, it doesn't need to be, you know, brand new stuff that you buy. Mess up with your makeup as well, I would say. Like, definitely give yourself a little bit more creative flair and just use what you want. I mean, just because something's a lip product doesn't mean to say it can't be used on the cheeks, the eyes, wherever. I adore this look. I adored the other two looks I've done as well, even though they are completely different, and I hope you've enjoyed them too. I hope you have a nice Valentine's Day, whatever you're doing. I'm not really big on Valentine's. So I've done a whole video on Valentine's looks, and I'm like, I'm not really a big Valentine's person, but Valentine's just isn't really our gig, to be honest with you. But if you are doing anything nice, then I hope you've enjoyed these looks, and I hope that you can pull from them. But otherwise, hope you've enjoyed. There's a little subscribe button down there if you fancy it. If not, I completely understand, and I'll see you all again next time. Bye.